The luminous seeker drifted through the starlit void, its crystalline hull reflecting the distant starlight like a diamond suspended in space. Commander Rylith Vex stood at her observation post, her silver-scaled skin shimming under the soft purple lighting of the bridge. After 16 cycles of exploration in this uncharted sector, the Astral Confederation's flagship had found nothing but empty systems and dead worlds. "Commander," First Navigator Thorn's melodious voice carried across the bridge, his secondary breathing gills fluttering with excitement. "Multiple anomalous energy signatures detected in Sector 12. The readings, they're unlike anything in our database." Rylith glided across the gravity-assisted floor to Thorn's station, her ceremonial cape floating behind her. The holographic display showed dozens of organized energy signatures moving in perfect formation. At their center, a massive reading pulsed like a newborn star. "Artificial?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. No natural phenomenon moved with such precision. "Definitely," Thorn confirmed, his fingers dancing across the neural interface. "The energy output from the central vessel alone exceeds our entire battle fleet's combined power generation." "Impossible," muttered Chief Engineer Cora, her tentacles writhing with anxiety as she joined them at the station. "No known species has achieved such energy manipulation. The thermal discharge alone would." "They're adjusting course," Thorn interrupted, his voice rising. "They're heading directly toward us." Rylith felt her secondary heart begin to beat faster. The luminous seeker represented the pinnacle of Confederation technology, equipped with the most advanced stealth systems known to their species. They should have been invisible to any conventional sensors. "Battle stations," she ordered, watching as her crew efficiently moved to their emergency positions. "But keep weapons powered down. We're explorers, not warriors." "Commander," Communications Officer Pearl called out, his crystalline antenna vibrating. "We're being hailed. They're broadcasting on all known frequencies, and several we didn't know existed." Before Rylith could respond, every screen on the bridge illuminated with an incoming transmission. The image resolved into a figure that caused several crew members to step back in surprise. The alien was tall, with dark brown skin and no scales or protective membranes. It wore a sleek black uniform adorned with unfamiliar symbols, standing in what was clearly a massive command center. Behind it, dozens of similarly bipedal creatures worked at stations that seemed to merge seamlessly with their operators. "Greetings, vessel of the Astral Confederation. I am Fleet Admiral Harrison of the United Earth Defense Force. You've entered human-controlled space. While we welcome peaceful contact, I must ask your intentions in this sector." Rylith blinked all three sets of eyes in succession, a gesture of surprise in her culture. The universal translator had processed the aliens' language instantly, suggesting their communication technology was at least as advanced as the Confederation's. "I am Commander Rylith Vex of the Confederation exploration vessel Luminous Seeker. We are peaceful explorers mapping this sector of space. We had no knowledge this region was claimed." She paused, choosing her next words carefully. "Your vessels, they are most impressive, Admiral Harrison." The human's expression remained neutral, but something flickered in those alien eyes. "Thank you, Commander. The UESS Prometheus and her battle group represent humanity's commitment to both exploration and security. Perhaps you'd care to come aboard. We could discuss the boundaries of our respective territories in person." Rylith exchanged glances with her senior staff. The invitation was both an opportunity and a test. These humans had already demonstrated technological superiority. Their sensors had pierced Confederation stealth systems effortlessly. If they meant harm, declining wouldn't help. "We would be honored, Admiral. Though I must ask, how did you detect us? Our stealth systems are considered quite advanced." For the first time, Admiral Harrison's expression changed, showing what Rylith would later learn was a smile. "Let's just say that humanity has learned to be very thorough in watching our borders, Commander. Recent history has taught us the value of vigilance." As the transmission ended, Rylith turned to her crew. "Thoughts?" "They're warriors," Commander said Security Chief Voss, his combat scales already hardening. "Every vessel in their formation is armed far beyond anything we've encountered. The question is, what are they preparing to fight?" "Perhaps we should ask them," Rylith replied, watching as the massive human ships drew closer. The Prometheus was unlike anything in Confederation records. Its hull was angular and aggressive, covered in weapon emplacements and launch bays, yet it moved with impossible grace for its size. "Helm, take us in." "Standard approach vector." Rylith looked at each of her crew members in turn. "Remember, we're not just representing ourselves here. We're representing the entire Confederation. Let's show these humans that we can be worthy partners in space exploration." As the luminous seeker began its approach to the human battle group, Rylith couldn't shake the feeling that this encounter would change the course of galactic history. The humans had built a fleet that could likely challenge the entire Confederation Navy. The question wasn't just what had driven them to create such powerful weapons of war. It was what they had already used them against. She would soon find out. And the answer would shake the foundations of everything the Confederation thought they knew about the galaxy. The docking bay of the UESS Prometheus swallowed the luminous seeker whole, making the Confederation flagship look like a child's toy in comparison. Commander Rylith watched through the viewport as her ship settled into a berth that could have held 5 vessels its size. The scale of human engineering continued to astound her. "Environmental readings are optimal," reported Chief Engineer Cora, her tentacles moving in precise patterns across the control interface. "They've perfectly matched our atmospheric requirements." "In minutes," muttered First Navigator Thorne. "They scanned our biology and adjusted their systems that quickly." The diplomatic party assembled near the airlock. Rylith, Security Chief Voss, Engineer Cora, and their xenobiologist, Dr. Naira. As the airlock cycled, Rylith noticed her crew's nervous movements. Extra blinks, twitching appendages, scales shifting colors unconsciously. The door opened to reveal Admiral Harrison and a group of human officers. Up close, the humans were even more imposing. Tall, confident beings with expressions that Rylith's species found difficult to read. They wore their advanced technology with casual familiarity, small devices integrated into their uniforms, humming with barely contained power. "Commander Vex," Harrison stepped forward, making a gesture that approximated the Confederation greeting perfectly. "Welcome aboard the Prometheus." As they walked through the massive corridors of the human vessel, Rylith and her crew tried to process everything they saw. Holographic displays floated in the air, showing ship systems and the space around them. Crew members moved with purpose, some wearing powered exoskeletons that enhanced their natural capabilities. Automated drones whirred past on unknown errands. "Your technological advancement is remarkable." Dr. Naira couldn't contain her scientific curiosity. "The neural interfaces alone. We've had to advance quickly," Harrison replied, leading them into a large conference room with a panoramic view of space. Necessity is a powerful motivator. Once seated, Rylith noticed something odd about the room. Despite its luxury, it was designed for defense. Hidden shield generators, multiple exits, and what she suspected were weapon emplacements behind the walls. These humans built everything with security in mind. "You're wondering about our military capabilities," Harrison said, reading her expression. "Why we maintain such a powerful fleet in what you considered unexplored space." "The thought had crossed my mind," Rylith admitted. "The Confederation is not naive. We maintain defensive forces. But your battle group possesses more firepower than our entire naval fleet." Harrison's expression darkened. 15 years ago, humanity learned the hard way that we weren't alone in the universe. First contact for us wasn't peaceful exploration. It was invasion. The room fell silent. Rylith felt her scales tighten against her body. "We have no records of any conflict in this sector." "You wouldn't." A new voice spoke up. A human female officer stepped forward, her uniform bearing different insignia. "I'm Director Blackwood, Strategic Intelligence. The species we encountered, we called them the swarm. They didn't leave evidence. They consumed everything in their path, organic or mechanical, using it to grow stronger. Holoprojections appeared around the room, showing scenes that made Rilith's crew recoil. Massive organic-mechanical hybrid ships, worlds turned to ash, entire systems devoid of life. We lost 3 colony worlds before we even understood what we were fighting. Harrison continued. Earth itself was nearly overwhelmed. But humanity, we adapted. We evolved. We took what we learned from every encounter and turned it against them. The technology you're seeing, Blackwood gestured around them. Much of it was developed during the war. We had to advance centuries in just a few years. The price was high, but extinction tends to be a powerful motivator for innovation. You survived, Voss stated, his combat scales fully extended now. But at what cost? Everything. Harrison replied simply. We sacrificed everything we had to become what we needed to be. And when we finally drove them back, we swore we'd never be caught unprepared again. Rilith's mind raced. The Confederation had explored thousands of systems, cataloged hundreds of species, but they'd never encountered anything like what the humans described. These, swarm, where did they go? Harrison and Blackwood exchanged glances. That's the problem. Commander, we don't know. They retreated beyond the rim of known space, but our long-range sensors have detected movement, energy signatures similar to what we saw during the war. They're coming back, Rilith realized, her secondary heart nearly stopping. We think so, Blackwood confirmed. And this time, they won't just be facing humanity. Unless we work together, Harrison finished. The Confederation's scientific knowledge, combined with our military experience, we might stand a chance. But first, you need to understand exactly what we're up against. The holoprojectors shifted again, and Rilith felt her crew draw closer together as the full horror of humanity's first contact experience began to play out before them. What they saw would change everything, not just for the Confederation, but for the entire galaxy. The storm that had forged humanity into warriors was returning, and this time it threatened to consume everything in its path. Show us, Rilith said firmly, her decision made. Show us everything. The lights dimmed as humanity's darkest memories filled the room, and the true scale of what they faced began to take shape. The piece of exploration was over. Now, survival would depend on whether 2 very different species could learn to trust each other before it was too late. The holographic display in the Prometheus's war room painted Rilith's scales in a ghostly blue light as she watched the final moments of humanity's desperate defense of Earth. The images showed massive organic mechanical ships being torn apart by weapons that seemed to defy physics, while ground forces fought house to house against creatures that looked like walking nightmares. The final battle lasted 23 days. Director Blackwood's voice was steady, but her hands were clasped tightly behind her back. We lost 30 million people, but we learned something crucial. The swarm operates like a true hive mind. Kill enough of them quickly enough, and the rest retreat to protect the greater consciousness. Fascinating and horrifying, Dr. Nira murmured, her scientific detachment warring with obvious revulsion. Their biological adaptation rate is unprecedented. Each wave of attacks showed clear evolutionary responses to your previous defensive strategies. Which is why we had to keep developing new weapons, Admiral Harrison explained, manipulating the holographic controls to show schematics of human warships. The Prometheus class represents our latest advancement: quantum-locked plasma weapons, dark matter shielding, and gravity manipulation drives. But even with all this, you don't think it will be enough. Security Chief Voss finished, his combat scales fully extended. Not against an enemy that adapts so quickly. No, Harrison admitted, not alone. But your people's mastery of biological sciences, combined with our weapons technology, together we might have a chance. Rilith studied the tactical displays, her military training noting details her scientific background helped her understand. These energy signatures you've detected, how long do we have? Based on their previous movement patterns, Blackwood brought up a new set of star charts. 3 months, maybe 4. They're being cautious this time, probing ahead of their main force. We've already lost contact with 2 deep space monitoring stations. The Confederation Council will need to be informed, Rylith said, already dreading the political chaos this would cause. But they'll need proof. Already prepared, Harrison nodded to an aide, who handed Rylith a quantum storage device. Everything we have on the swarm. Tactical data, biological samples, weapon specifications. We're not asking you to trust us blindly. Commander, Cora spoke up, her tentacles writhing with nervous energy. The technological exchange they're proposing, it goes against dozens of Confederation protocols. So does the extinction of our species, Voss countered. The humans faced this threat alone and barely survived. We'd be fools to ignore their experience. Rylith felt the weight of the decision pressing down on her. If we do this, if we forge this alliance, the Confederation will want assurances, technology exchanges, defensive pacts, territorial agreements. Done, Harrison said immediately. We'll open our shipyards, our research facilities, everything. Humanity remembers what it means to stand alone against the dark. We won't let it happen to your people. A sudden alarm cut through the room, causing both human and alien crews to snap to attention. Multiple quantum space ruptures detected. A voice announced over the ship's comm system. Something's coming through. The tactical display shifted, showing 3 massive tears in space-time forming at the edge of the system. Harrison's face went pale. No, it's too soon. They can't be here already. Energy signatures match swarm configurations, an officer reported, her fingers flying over her console. But they're different, more advanced than our previous encounters. They've been watching us, Blackwood realized. Learning, adapting. Those probe stations weren't destroyed. They were studied. Rylith watched in horror as massive shapes began emerging from the quantum ruptures. They looked like a twisted fusion of organic tissue and machine parts, pulsing with an unholy energy that seemed to drain the light from nearby stars. Commander Vex, Harrison turned to her, his expression grave. I know we haven't formalized our alliance yet, but right now we need to make a choice. Your ship's biological scanning technology might give us an edge in analyzing these new configurations. Will you stand with us? Rylith looked at her crew, seeing the same mix of fear and determination in their eyes that she felt in her hearts. They were scientists, explorers, but sometimes survival required becoming something more. The luminous seeker stands ready, Admiral, she declared, straightening to her full height. Send us your tactical data. We'll begin biological analysis immediately. Harrison nodded sharply. All hands to battle stations. Launch all fighters. Director Blackwood, get me a direct line to Earth Command. Tell them, he paused, looking at their alien allies. Tell them first contact protocols are now in effect, and we're about to find out if everything we built will be enough. As both human and alien crews rushed to their posts, Rylith caught a glimpse of the enemy vessels through the war room's viewport. They were larger than anything she'd ever seen, making even the Prometheus look small in comparison. But for the first time, humanity wouldn't face them alone. The real test of their hastily forged alliance was about to begin, and the fate of 2 civilizations would hang in the balance. Space itself seemed to burn as the swarm vessels advanced, their hybrid hulls pulsing with sickly bioluminescence. The Prometheus and Luminous Seeker moved in perfect coordination, their crews working frantically to analyze the new threat. Initial scans complete, Dr. Nera reported, her voice tense as she fed data to both ships' tactical systems. Their biological components have evolved significantly. The metal-organic fusion is nearly perfect now. Targeting solutions are shifting to compensate, Harrison commanded from the Prometheus's bridge. Rylith, your ship's sensor data is giving us a clear picture of their weak points. Are you ready? Commander Rylith stood on her own bridge, watching as her science vessel systems were repurposed for war. All power diverted to scanning arrays and shields. Will be your eyes, Admiral. The first wave of swarm fighters erupted from their carrier vessels, if you could call them carriers. They were more like living hives, spawning endless streams of smaller horrors. The human fleet's response was immediate and devastating. Quantum-locked plasma beams sliced through space, guided by the luminous seeker's precise biological scanning. Where before the swarm would have adapted and regenerated, now they found their healing factors disrupted by targeted energy frequencies. "It's working," Cora exclaimed, her tentacles dancing across engineering controls. The combined attack patterns are overwhelming their adaptation rates. But the swarm hadn't spent years hiding just to fall to their old enemy's new tricks. The larger vessels began to shift, their forms twisting in ways that defied physical laws. Waves of dark energy pulsed outward, disrupting shields and sensors alike. "New biological configuration detected," Dr. Nira warned. They're combining their forms, merging into something larger. "All ships, fall back," Harrison ordered. "Defensive formation Delta. Rylith, get your ship behind our line." The three swarm capital ships had become one massive organism, its surface writhing with weapons and sensor arrays copied from both human and Confederation technology. It fired, and a beam of pure darkness swept through space, annihilating 2 human destroyers instantly. "Direct hit on Prometheus's port shields," someone shouted. "Dark matter containment at 60%. "Commander," Thorne called out from his station on the luminous seeker, "I'm detecting a pattern in their energy emissions. Every time they fire that weapon, there's a moment where their biological components train to contain the power." "Send the data to Prometheus," Rylith ordered. "Admiral, if we time our attacks precisely." "I see it." Harrison's voice was grim but determined. "All ships, prepare to execute attack pattern Omega." "Commander Vex, we'll need perfect targeting data." "You'll have it," Rylith promised, watching as her crew pushed their scientific instruments beyond their designed limits. "Ready on your mark." The massive swarm entity gathered energy for another devastating attack. But this time, both species were ready. The moment it fired, every human weapon targeted the exact points where flesh met machine, guided by alien sensors that could see the creature's biological weaknesses. The combined firepower of 2 civilizations struck as one, and for a moment, space itself seemed to hold its breath. The swarm creature's scream was felt rather than heard, rippling through subspace as its carefully constructed form began to tear itself apart. Secondary explosions chained through its massive bulk as human and alien weapons found their marks. But even as it died, it sent out one final pulse, a quantum signal that made every sensor in both fleets spike off their scales. Energy signature matches their long-range communications. Blackwood's voice cut through the chaos. "They just told their main fleet exactly where we are, and exactly what we can do." The battle was won. But the war was just beginning. The war room aboard Prometheus had changed in the hours following the battle. Where before it had been marked by careful separation between human and alien crews, now both species worked side by side, analyzing data and preparing for what they all knew was coming. "The main swarm fleet will arrive within 48 hours, Director Blackwood announced, her uniform showing signs of the recent battle. Over 300 vessels based on long-range scans, all of them likely incorporating the same adaptive technology we just faced. But now we know they can be beaten," Harrison added, looking at the assembled command staff of both ships. "Thanks to the Confederation's biological scanning technology and our weapons, we proved they're not invincible." "At great cost," Rylith noted, watching the casualty reports scroll past on nearby screens. "And they'll adapt to what we did today. They always adapt." "Then we'll have to adapt faster," Dr. Nira stepped forward, her usual scientific reserve replaced by fierce determination. "During the battle, we collected terabytes of data on their biological responses to our weapons. If we work together, combine our knowledge, "We can create something they've never seen before," Cora finished, her tentacles intertwining with excitement. "Commander, if we repurpose the Luminous Seeker's terraforming systems." The next 48 hours passed in a blur of activity. The human fleet's weapons were modified with Confederation biotech, while alien sensors were enhanced with quantum computing. Engineers and scientists from both species worked without rest, driven by the knowledge that extinction was the price of failure. When the main swarm fleet arrived, they found something unprecedented: human and alien ships flying in formations that maximize both species' strengths. The Luminous Seeker, once a pure science vessel, now served as the nerve center for a biological warfare system that turned the swarm's adaptive nature against itself. The battle that followed would be studied by military historians for centuries to come. The swarm's overwhelming numbers met an enemy that refused to break, two civilizations fighting as one for their right to exist. The turning point came when Dr. Naira and Director Blackwood's joint project was finally ready. A quantum biological virus that could spread through the swarm's hive mind, disrupting their ability to adapt and coordinate. The price for deploying it was high. The Luminous Seeker would have to get deep into the enemy fleet, protected only by human escorts. "We'll get you there," Harrison promised, as the Prometheus and its battle group prepared for one final charge. The combined fleet moved as one, human weapons clearing a path while Confederation sensors guided their attacks with surgical precision. The Luminous Seeker, escorted by humanity's finest pilots, drove into the heart of the swarm armada. When the virus deployed, the effect was catastrophic for both sides. The quantum energies released burned out systems across every ship in range, but the swarm's biological components were devastated. Their carefully constructed adaptations turned against them, causing chain reactions that ripped their fleet apart from within. In the aftermath, as rescue operations began and damage reports flooded in, Commander Rylith found herself back in the Prometheus's war room with Admiral Harrison. "The swarm is retreating," Harrison confirmed, looking at tactical displays showing the enemy fleet's scattered remnants fleeing into deep space. Long-range sensors show their hive mind is severely damaged. They won't be back. Not for a very long time. "And when they do return?" Rylith asked, though she already knew the answer. Harrison smiled, a genuine expression of hope that needed no translation. "They'll find something they've never encountered before. Not just humans, not just the Confederation, but a true alliance. Two civilizations that learn to combine their strengths and overcome their differences in the face of extinction. A lesson worth the price we paid to learn it," Rylith agreed, extending her hand in the human gesture of friendship she'd learned. As Harrison clasped her hand, both leaders knew this was just the beginning. The stars themselves seemed brighter somehow, as if reflecting the hope of two species that had faced the darkness together and emerged stronger for it. The swarm had sought to destroy them both. Instead, they had forged an alliance that would reshape the galaxy for generations to come. End.